I don't see people anymore, I see frequencies of light. While you see a stranger in a coat, I see a walking storm of violet grief or a flickering flame of golden joy. But today, I saw someone who had no color at all, and that's when I knew I had to give her mine. I don't see the world the way you do. To most, a crowd is just a sea of faces, a blur of coats and hurried footsteps. But to me, every person is a walking canvas. I see their souls trailing behind them like a wake of liquid light. Most people are chaotic, flickering mess, muddy greens of envy, the dull browns of a long workday, or the static flickers of anxiety. But me, I've always been different. Since the day I could open my eyes, I've been a constant radiating gold. It's a warm, heavy hue that feels like sunlight trapped under my skin. People are drawn to me without knowing why. They feel better near me, but they don't see the price I pay. To keep my light, I have to seek out the shadows. I have to find the gray. Yesterday, the city felt heavier than usual. The humidity was thick, and the subway terminal smelled of damp concrete and old electricity. As the commuters rushed past, their colors were muted, dampened by the rain outside. But then, the temperature seemed to drop. Not in a way a thermometer could catch, but a chill that settled deep in my bones. That's when I saw her. She was sitting on a cracked plastic bench near the end of the platform. She wasn't crying. She wasn't moving. She was just there, and she was the purest gray I had ever seen. It wasn't just a color, it was a void. A thick ash-like fog clung to her skin, swallowing the light around her like a black hole. In my vision, she looked like a piece of a black and white film edited into a world of 4K color. She was fading out of existence right in front of me. My chest tightened. That familiar, restless tug began. My gold was swirling, pressing against my ribs, desperate to escape. It's a strange sensation, half ecstasy, half agony. I sat down 2 seats away, careful not to startle her. Up close, her aura felt like needles of ice. I could feel her numbness trying to pull at my own light. I took a deep breath, letting the gold settle into my hands. The trains are late today, I said. My voice sounded louder than I intended in the hollow station. She didn't look up. Her eyes remained fixed on a phone screen that had gone dark minutes ago. They're always late, she whispered. Her voice was flat, a hollow echo of a person who had stopped expecting anything to go right. I closed my eyes. I didn't just want to talk. I wanted to heal. I visualized the gold reservoir in my heart opening up. I imagined it flowing like molten honey down my shoulders, through my arms, and pooling in my fingertips. I used to hate the wait, I said, keeping my tone rhythmic and low. Until I realized this station is the only place where we aren't required to be anything. For these 10 minutes, you don't have to be a daughter or a boss or a success or even a survivor. You're just a traveler. You're between worlds, and in the between, anything can happen. I looked at her aura. A tiny, microscopic spark of violet flickered in the fog near her shoulder. I pushed harder. I began to describe things, not just stories, but feelings. I told her about the smell of wood smoke on a crisp October morning. I described the way the ocean looks right before a storm when the water turns a deep, bruised indigo. I talked about the silence of a library and the first bite of bread still warm from the oven. As I spoke, the gold was leaving me in waves. I could feel my limbs growing heavy. My peripheral vision began to dim, the vibrant oranges and reds of the station fading into the mundane gray of reality. I was giving her my sight. The transformation was breathtaking. The ash-like fog around her began to crack. Brilliant streaks of sky blue and soft rose started to knit themselves into her aura. Her shoulders, which had been hunched toward the floor, slowly began to square. She finally turned her head. For a split second, the gray in her eyes vanished, replaced by a clear, piercing light that looked like the sky after a storm. Why are you doing this? She asked. Her voice finally had a vibration to it, a soul. Because, I said, my voice cracking from the sudden exhaustion, the world has enough gray. It needs more of what you're hiding. The roar of an incoming train filled the tunnel. The wind from the tracks blew her hair across her face. She stood up, and as she moved toward the doors, she left a shimmering trail of light behind her, a wake of gold that wasn't mine anymore. It was hers. She stepped into the car, looked back through the glass, and gave me a smile that felt like a gift. Then, the train pulled away. I stayed on that bench for a long time. I looked down at my hands. They were pale, almost translucent. The gold was gone, replaced by a quiet, flickering silver. I felt empty, hollowed out, and incredibly tired. But as I sat there in the silence of the empty station, I felt a familiar warmth beginning to bubble up deep in my chest. Tonight, I would sleep. Tomorrow, the gold would return. And tomorrow, I would go back out and find someone else who had forgotten how to shine.